What's up, duties? Dale Rodriguez here, and in today's video we're going to be going over non-specific training. Now, what is non-specific training? Non-specific training, as I'm going to relate it to tricking, is that anything that does not follow closely to the movements or movement patterns that are within our sport. So, for example, things kind of like steady state cardio, so that could be jump rope, that could be swimming, that could be running, walking, things like that. General strength building exercises as your squat, your bench press, your deadlift, overhead press, things like that. Some forms of calisthenics, specifically again upper body calisthenics, some lower body calisthenics as well. Or for recovery, for fun, you play like a pickup game of soccer, basketball, something. You just do a different sport. And so, why would we want to do these things? What benefits do they kind of have for us? Well, typically the first thing that comes to my mind when I think of doing non-specific training is that it tends to build a lot more than it tears down. And what I mean by that is that sports as a whole, so basketball, football, soccer, baseball, tricking, tennis, things of sports, right? Sports in general are not made for keeping the joints of the body healthy in the long term. And so that sounds kind of weird, but especially in the highest, most elite competitive forms of these sports, the body's overall health and longevity takes a backseat to performance and how far can you go and how far can you push in the sport. So, doing non-specific methods of training like cardio, the general strength building exercises, will be more tuned to the longevity and the health and the resiliency of your body. And now, of course, anything can be taken to its extremes, but if you were typically training non-specific along with your tricking or with your sport, those methods aren't going to be as intense and aren't going to be as you could say detrimental to your body. And the second thing, these two kind of relate to each other, is that you're going to be able to develop your weaknesses that you have, right? So we're going to be able to develop, so like I said in the last video, if you feel like you can't really go as hard in the session because you just burn out after an hour, well, if you decide to include maybe twice a week some form of steady state cardio, after a couple weeks you might find that, hey, I'm now able to go for longer in my session and I feel great after my hour and a half session. Same thing with power development. If you feel like you just don't have enough power, you might go through and you say, hey, do a couple power exercises, have a couple of power development exercises once or twice a week. Doesn't have to be anything crazy. You might realize that, oh hey, now I feel like I can really push when I'm doing my tricks. I feel stronger, I feel better, things like that, right? And then the last thing that I like to think of is that with your non-specific training, especially if you can't make it to the gym, you can't make it to the tricking session or whatever, it gives you more opportunities to train, right? Because just because you can't make it to the tricking session doesn't mean that you can't maybe get in a strength training session or an aerobic session or a mobility session, things like that, right? So, or like I said in the last video, you could just pull an Andy Lee and just do your tricking stuff at the gym. I just like to think that the non-specific training allows you to have another form to access and to build yourself up as an athlete, not just as a tricker. So now, what would be 3 detriments to non-specific training. So my mind is that, especially for beginners, they tend to either over or under program that part of their training. They got the tricking part down, but they don't necessarily have the other part down. So, for example, if on Monday a person has a heavy tricking day and then a light strength and conditioning day, sounds pretty good, right? And then on Tuesday, they'll have a lighter tricking day and then a heavy lifting day. And that also sounds kind of fine, right? And then on Wednesday, they have heavy tricking day, light strength and conditioning day, and they keep flipping it. Well, if you notice that every single day you're doing something heavy, you're having some kind of heavy like lifting or some kind of heavy, maybe cardio if that's what you're doing, or power development. You're doing some kind of like high intensity, heavily stimulating workout every single day of the week, and then your body really has no time to rest. So you end up typically, well, people will overtrain and fatigue themselves out, and then they'll say like, well, hey, this isn't working. Well, it's because you're not giving yourself and your body enough time to rest. So something that's would be a little bit better is if you had your heavy tricking day and then a heavy strength training day on top of that, and then the next day you can maybe train a little bit lighter to give yourself that day of rest, and then on the next day you can go back up to heavy again, or you can go like heavy, medium, light, heavy, medium, light, if that makes sense, right? And or what I mean by under programming is that people will take the exercises that they found because some dude on YouTube told them to do this, and they'll just sit there and they'll just be like, oh, yep, just got my reps in, and then they don't really like are not actually trying with whatever it is that they're doing, because all you really need, especially if you're incorporating non-specific training, is to only have 1 or 2 training sessions specifically dedicated to that methodology, right? So if you want cardio, all you gotta do is just incorporate 2 days of cardio. That works. It still works, I promise. Same thing with strength training. 1 or 2 days of strength training during the week. Nothing crazy. Don't have to kill yourself. But the idea still stands, is that when you do those days, make sure that you are actually putting in the same amount of effort that you would for your tricking. Now, the second part is that people will, because of non-specific training, your growth specifically as a tricker or as in your sport may not be as exponential as you'd like, just because you're having your training day on top of the other non-specific, and then you're going to have to take a lighter day. And then so the growth that happens might be a little bit more like bit by bit, as opposed to exponential as you would be if you only trained tricking and you didn't do any of the other non-specific training methods. And so for my last detriment that I think that comes with non-specific training, so anyways, the final detriment that I like to think of is time. So because you are incorporating another methodology, it's going to take an extra amount of time out of your day. You might have to either get up early, cut something out that may not have been good for you, maybe you stay up too late, or something, video games are ruining your life, whatever. Either way, you're probably going to have to incorporate or cut something out to add in for this non-specific amount of time. Now, the trainings don't have to be super long. They can literally only be 30 minutes. Again, like I said earlier, just make sure that what you're doing is actually beneficial, that you are actually trying to get better or to develop whatever it is that you are training for. Alright, so quick recap. Let's go over what we went over today. Building. So non-specific training methods tend to build and have human body longevity and health in mind more than specific sports do. Developing your weak areas, because you'll be going over different methods, you can actually build up a weakness that you have, as opposed to the sport, which specifically hones in on a specific way of training, like tricking is power. So you could be able to develop your cardio through other methods. More opportunities to train. Again, if you miss a day at open gym because life happens, you can at least train and do something else instead of just letting the day go by. Detriments. Over under programming. So more is not more when it comes to this. Less equals more when it comes to incorporating non-specific training methods into your workout regime. Growth. Your growth may not be as exponential as you'd like it to be. You're probably going to be more bit by bit as you go through this. Again, final thing that we covered, time. You'll probably have to sacrifice something. Either a good thing, or you can stack it on top of your days. That whatever is most beneficial and best for you is probably whenever you should incorporate these non-specific methods. So, in tomorrow's video, I'll be going over comparing the two and what is actually the best method for specific to non-specific training. Please like, subscribe, Stomp Tricking, follow me on Instagram, Stomp.Tricking, even though I kind of just posted things, should probably post better things. But I hope to see y'all in the next video. Have a good day. Peace.